On this episode of the Star Trek Universe podcast, we are talking about Star Trek Discovery 313, That Hope Is You, Part 2, right after these words from people unknown to us who paid to bring you words. These ones, right here.
Welcome to the Star Trek Universe podcast, the podcast where you get to listen in to the continuing Star Trek conversation that two lifelong friends have been having since they were 5 years old. My name is Matthew Carroll.
I am David C. Robertson.
David C. Robertson. How you doing, buddy?
I guess I'm okay.
Yeah, same here. Same here. Been a rough week over here on the Matt front.
No, I know.
Yeah, had a death in the family, and it's been hard. But we soldier forward. We soldier on, and we talk about Star Trek.
Indeed.
So this is the finale. What's this one called?
That Hope Is You, Part 2.
That Hope Is You. Who is Burnham the Hope? I'm guessing Burnham's the Hope, because she fights the best.
Yeah.
That's kind of what it seems like.
I don't know. It could be Owo.
Yeah, that's true. She did do a thing. What did you think? What do you think of this finale?
I absolutely loved it. I had no big issues. And we'll talk about some of the issues that are there, I guess, because people wrote us and said
that there were
we have issues.
All right. Well, I have my own issues. I don't know if they will be the same. Predominantly that I feel like they turned the finale into basically just an action movie, which I wouldn't mind if it were better executed. I feel like the action movie nature of this was poorly executed. The big elevator fight just felt kind of dumb. Like, I
didn't mind it at all.
It was cool. Know why
it felt dumb.
Here's why it felt dumb. I enjoyed
it.
I'll tell you exactly why I felt dumb.
Okay.
In any kind of stakes are important, and understanding the mechanics of something are important to have an action scene feel like it has stakes. And I know we've seen these elevators before in little glimpses, but
turbo lifts, yeah.
Right. But I felt like I didn't understand fully like how the mechanics of it were working, or like I felt like for her to make any kind of clever decision. I'm always about decisions. I want people to make decisions and outthink their opponent. And there was nothing in this that felt that way. She just is more brash than everyone else. She's more bold than everyone else. She's a better fighter, and that's why she won. You know what I mean? And that just kind of bothers me, especially given last episode where it was like, you have this intriguing offer of a compromise, and they turn it down out of hand and win through violence. Like, I didn't feel like there was any decisions made by the crew this episode that, like, were anything except for this one was more Die Hard than the last episode to me. It was more just like, I'm going to beat the bad guys because I'm a better fighter. And there was the crew who were willing to sacrifice themselves, which was touching and all. But I didn't, the main kind of A plot of this thing. And then again, so like in an action movie, there's setup and payoff, right? You show a setup of a scene of how an elevator works, or you show like, you write a scene where Burnham learns a thing about the turbo lifts that she can use later, you know? And in this, she just ninja'd her way out of it. And then the same thing with like the programmable matter. When she gets pushed into the programmable matter, we have no context for what that does to you. So we have no reason to feel like the fight is over, which Osira seems to. And we have no, like, again, I needed a setup scene from episode 2 that shows her learning how programmable matter works, or learning like what it does to you if you get pushed into it or something. Cause it was just like Osyra pushes her into this strange material and then she just fires out of it. And it's like, I guess she's fine. I had no reason to think she would be or wouldn't be. It was like the Schrodinger box of Schrodinger's Burnham in this thing that, like, there was no reason for me to think one way or the other. It was like a 50-50 thing. Like, okay, but why would Osyra be so sure? And it just felt sloppy, and it felt like both of those scenes felt dumb to me. Not bad, not unexciting, but dumb.
Yeah, I think the only one I really agree with is the programmable matter issue. That felt a little weird to me. But then again, like, the way I saw it was, sort of drowning in a ball pit,
exactly,
like Chuck E. Cheese,
right? And that's how it ended up being. She just like comes out of it, and it's like, oh, she pushed me into this thing that apparently had no consequences whatsoever. I guess she had to hold her breath for a second.
Yeah, I was wondering if it was going to be some kind of Lucy shit, man. We're like,
yeah, I thought she was going to come out and like have been able to like program the matter with her mind or some shit. Like I was ready for programmable matter armor or something.
Yeah,
but no, she just came out and spit out a little bit of programmable matter, and then like it beat Osyra. So both those scenes just felt unplanned, or like, let's just do a cool thing in the bowels of the ship. This felt, the sort of like scathing criticism that Galaxy Quest levels at Star Trek of like, why are these big chompers in the bottom of the ship, and like these crazy fights that they have. Like, this felt like that, but in a way that Star Trek has never actually done before.
Well, I as far as the turbo lifts, I imagine Michael knows exactly how the turbo lifts work. We've seen the turbo lifts working exactly in this way in season 2 on board the Enterprise. So I would imagine she knows exactly how those work. And we as an audience should know how those work because we've seen them work that way. Right.
My problem isn't that we don't know how the turbo lifts might work. My problem is that there was no reason. That fight was just kind of like, let's have a cool fight on the turbo lifts, which is fine. Yeah. Like I said, not bad. It's just very dumb. It's very Fast and the Furious as opposed to any sort of like clever nature to Burnham. And then to give her the captain's chair because she's a good John McClane feels also very dumb.
Okay. And to that, I will say Star Trek, the original series.
Sure.
If they had the money, Kirk would have been fighting on top of a turbo lift in the same way. And they did give Kirk the captaincy and let him remain in the captaincy because he's freaking John McClane. They just did.
That may be.
He breaks the rules and they leave him there. He becomes an admiral, then doesn't want to be an admiral anymore. So they demote him and give him a ship. I mean, They knew exactly what they were doing.
I feel like that's because of his willingness to make the hard calls, his sacrificial nature, his cleverness in the face of like unwinnable circumstances. Like this was the thing where they even call back to it. I agree that's what they're trying to do here. They call back to it on this episode. She's like, no, this is an unwinnable situation. She's like, I don't believe in those. But it's like when Kirk defeated an unwinnable situation, not always. There are definitely dumb episodes where, in this same vein, there are very dumb episodes of the original series where they just outfight the bad guys. But when it's at its best, it's that he's presented with options that are both bad, and he chooses a third option. Burnham didn't do that. Burnham just beat up the bad guys, and that just feels like not a reason to give somebody a captain's chair.
Well, she didn't just beat up the bad guys. She did send that coded message to Tilly. Like there was some thought behind some of the stuff she did. There just wasn't a lot of time to go into all of it.
Yeah.
But she tricked Osyra into getting Book out of that seat and hijacking the computer system to have the force field around it so she can get out.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess. Yeah. But again, none of that I understood her decision making. Why was Osyra torturing Book and not her? Was there a reason? Did Book have knowledge that no one else had? Because I couldn't understand. What did he have? What knowledge did he have? Because I think this is my fault, not theirs. But
yeah, I don't remember now. I just they kept saying, like, tell me the thing.
Right, but what was the thing? I have no idea.
I don't remember.
I have no idea. And I was I was like, I have no idea what information they're trying to get out of a book in this situation.
I can look and see if I can find it, but I don't remember.
Again, this could easily be me not remembering, but I don't remember what they were trying to get out of book. The one decision that she did make that was like making the hard call, captain-like behavior, was deciding to send Stamets out of the ship. Like that was a very hard and correct call, even though it was very sort of heartless and hard for her crew members.
Yeah, and I don't. To be fair, I don't think that what made them say, "Oh, she should be captain," is not entirely this situation. This was like the cherry on top. This was the, oh shit, well, she does know what she's doing to some degree. Like, she does get it done.
That's interesting. I would disagree with that because, like, I think almost every other interaction she's had with Vance has been like, the last interaction I believe she had with Vance was like, she did a horrible thing, Saru, you can punish her how you'd like. And he like demoted her. Like, Vance has no like love for Burnham until this moment. And so it's this mission that not only convinces him to give her the captain's chair, but convinces him to not hate her and swings him completely around to giving her the captain's chair. Yes, she defeated Osira. She did a big thing here. There's no denying that she did a big thing.
But you're overlooking the fact that during this last interaction, he basically called himself an asshole. The last several times they met, where he was just like, I was trying to make you do it the right way instead of doing it your way, but your way was right too.
Your way worked too, he says, yeah.
He brought up his daughter and all that shit, so like,
yeah.
He realized the error of his ways to some degree, in some capacity. So, I mean, it is about like previous behavior as well, because he's definitely bringing up his own behavior previously.
Again, I would say that's even a harder thing to convince someone to do when you say like, not only am I convinced that you're better than I thought you were, but I'm convinced that I am bad and wrong. I don't know. I think that it's true that she did a good thing here, and it would be like, she's earned the respect of him and probably and earned the thanks of the Federation, but like most of what she did here didn't seem like it's going to make her the captain. I don't know. Making that turn feels pretty extreme for the particular actions she took. Now she took good actions, like she did a good thing. She John McClane the hell out of this thing, and it was fun to watch. I enjoyed it. It did not give me anything of what I look for from Star Trek or really most media that I love. Like, I just like my characters I like my media to set up decisions for characters to make, and then it be like a hard decision for them to think through and make. And like, that doesn't have to be on a grand scale. It doesn't have to be a boardroom. It can be fast. It can be in an action scene, but like, I don't feel like this episode did that. This episode felt like all the decisions have been made. Now we just have to beat the bad guys.
Okay.
But, that's just how I felt about it. And it was fun to watch them beat the bad guys. I do enjoy pretty much all the characters, and I enjoy the action that happened, I guess.
Okay. Well, that's good.
Yeah. It was enjoyable. It just all felt very dumb. And it felt like I was watching a Fast and the Furious movie. And that saddens me in a way because it's not like Star Trek that I love, but it felt like watching a Fast and the Furious movie.
Star Trek is multiple things. And to me, it has also been a dumb Fast and the Furious movie. I like watching Kirk jump off of, jutting pieces of land coming out of the ground because the Genesis planet is falling apart and drop kicking Klingons in the head, and I like the self-destructs and all the ridiculous stuff that they wouldn't do in real life, but it doesn't bother me. I don't know. It's like Star Trek has always been a wonderful blend of those things to me, and when I got fed up with Star Trek was when they stopped doing the fun action things because it became so stuffy and everyone's so evolved, no one can have an emotion. And I'm mostly talking about Voyager.
Right.
And, and I kind of got back into it with Enterprise because they kind of brought some of that back. They brought some of that action back. And we had so many Star Trek fans complaining that it didn't feel like Star Trek anymore. But Star Trek is so many things.
I agree.
It's just...
It is and has been many things, but my favorite versions of it, and it's not about emotion. I'm very glad that this is infused with emotion. I'm even glad it's infused with action. It just, to me, this episode particularly, and most of last episode, left out the thing that, well, I take that back. Last episode did not fully explore the decisions that needed to be made, I feel like, which I get, like, they leave in some of that for us to discuss after, and I'm okay with that. But like what's a decision that was made this episode? Like, not just a clever tactic, but a decision.
I mean, there are all sorts of decisions in those things.
They convinced Sakal to make the decision to shut off the holo, and that's...
To face his fears, yeah.
Yeah, so Sakal makes a decision, but that's literally like the only decision I can think of. A couple things I really did enjoy. I really enjoyed Culver and Saru seeing Gray. That was neat. And it raises a lot of cool questions. All right, like what is Gray? Because we thought it was just like some sort of manifestation of her personality, I guess.
Well, I mean, I suspected it was something else, but
right.
We've never had a human with a symbiote before.
Not long term, and we've never had. They generally frown on personal relationships between people that accept the Trill. So like, there's definitely something going on here. This is not in their head, and since humans are not telepathic, I don't even know what this could be. Like, can this be a projection? I don't even know what the holo could be reading here.
Yeah, no, I'm very interested to see what's going on, and I assume with programmable matter, we'll see Gray in the flesh, as it were.
Right, which could be really cool. Could be a really cool version of him or something.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what they'll do. They're never going to do what I want to do, which is just like make Gray Iron Man, essentially.
Yes, Iron Man and Star Trek would be pretty cool.
Gray starts drinking.
Demon in the Trill.
Yeah. Yeah.
But overall, I hate that I am so down in the last two episodes because, and even more so this one, because I really liked this season. I really, really did. And maybe I just need to look at it as an entire season. It was very interesting. Lots of cool world building. I guess I just always want things to work their way towards a big finale.
I felt like it did. And I feel like, Michael didn't, yes, she reacted. Yes, there were lots of little tactics and things she used action wise, but there are tons of little decisions there. It may not be like I'm going to sit and groan over this while the camera does a close up of me while I figure out the decision, but
no, it's not that. It's that there's never a decision that we understand before she makes it. And that's important to me in pretty much any media.
That I didn't necessarily need that, because what I liked about this was everything she was doing was stuff that like I wouldn't think about until she did it and went, oh, that is a thing. Because everything she did was something we have seen in Star Trek. We have seen in this series, as a matter of fact. So every little piece of technology she uses,
sure. But that, to me, that's all just tactical. That's that's Fast and the Furious stuff, and that's fine. It's cool. It's fun, but it loses something that I enjoy a lot about not just Star Trek, but all storytelling. Yeah,
I mean, not everything has to be that, and I enjoyed what they did here. I cried like 3 or 4 times.
Oh yeah, what gotcha?
When Book was being tortured, like the combination of his acting and her, responses to him in pain got me. Sakal seeing his mother die got me. His mother's message to the Federation, got me. Oh my God, the part where
his mother stuff got me a lot, and I we talked about last episode how it was kind of underwhelming. The idea that that's all this was this boy trapped on this planet, and we were like, well, we were expecting something a little bigger or more interesting, but in the end, that was an incredibly powerful moment. Yeah.
I choked up when he realizes that the Elder is gone.
Yeah.
Like that got me. So I don't know. I was thoroughly moved by the episode, I'll say. Not necessarily by anything. Well, I mean, that's not true. It's just, everything got me at some point. Like when the crew and the bowels were all dying off, and they needed Owo to go do the thing.
Yeah, I thought Owo might be done for, and I did like a lot the. It seemed that I kind of wish we'd understood better the. I guess the power of the of the sphere data and how it works and how it's that's what I'm looking for, how it's distributed among the dots. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I didn't understand fully. Like, I got the sense based on the rise in the music that they were saying that this dot, when it goes into this chamber with Owo, that it was deciding to possibly like lose its life, like, or even the sphere data is deciding to lose its life. Like that. That's how they treated it anyway. I don't know if that's true.
Yeah, I don't know. That was confusing to me, and I think maybe it was just they wanted to save that robot or that dot specifically because it was the one that saved Owo. Not necessarily that the sphere data would only be in that one.
Right,
but,
which didn't seem to be the case because they had rebooted the ship and it took on the voice of the sphere data.
Right.
So it didn't seem to be. I just wasn't sure. For some reason, it seemed like it was going to be like a like this dot 23 or whatever had its own personality that they were worried about, instead of treating the dot 23s as just like or that some of the sphere data was contained in it or something like that. But I never really understood those stakes again. But I really was touched when the dot 23 was like so I forget what the dot said as it pulled her out. Something like, it is my honor to do so, or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
That was sweet. I liked it. I liked Owo being willing to die for them. I liked all of them being willing to die for the ship, and I liked the dot being willing to die for Owo. There's just everybody's willing to die in the bowels of the ship.
And I loved that they gave the crew something to do. It wasn't just the Michael Burnham show. It really wasn't. It was. The last 2 episodes has definitely been the crew running around doing shit. Yeah, they
did. They did. I did kind of feel like they were all heading to blow up the nacelle, right? But it clearly only took one person. And I was like, why are they were like, it's a suicide mission. And then they were like, let's all go on it. I was like, why? Also, it takes more oxygen to like all walk across the ship. Like, why don't you just 7 of you lay down and, rest while one of you goes and does it? And clearly Owo's the best decision because she has the extra lung power. I thought that was really dumb because it seemed like they were all planning to go blow themselves up when it clearly only took one person.
Well, but also, what are the other people going to do? Just sit there and die? Like, it's better to all go. And if you face opposition, you don't know who is going to be the best at getting there.
Sure.
So if there's some kind of opposition, some of you get taken down, there's still a chance.
That is true. That is true. And it's very possible they would have gotten to the end and then would have talked about it and been like, all right, who's staying? One of us has to stay. The rest of us can run away or something like that. Mm-hmm. But it just seemed like they were like, it's a suicide mission. Are we all in? Let's all go. Mass suicide on this one.
Yeah, no, I don't. I think it was just a safety in numbers situation, like sort of like how in City of the Edge of Forever they were like, okay, if we don't come back, next up is so and so and so and so. Y'all go through, and then if they don't ever come back, you two, like, we've got to get this done.
Yeah.
Whatever, whoever the names were, I don't remember who. Yeah, who was in what order?
No idea.
Because I don't remember stuff like that.
Well, what else? So you really liked this episode a lot. Like, you're just totally down. I'm glad. I'm really glad. I really enjoyed it. Like, it was a fun ride, but it just had those issues for me. What else did you really like about it?
I don't know why, but it made me think about the previous episode more. Like, it made me like the previous episode more because you have the scientist guy. I don't remember his name.
I don't either.
He stands up to Osira and she chokes him out, basically.
Yeah, which after the sort of like ideas that we had talking on the last cast about how interesting it would be to see her like humanity explored a little bit and see like if she has some depths to her, and this guy seems to be representing a side of her that she has to hide away to be the dictator that she is, but maybe there is more to her. Maybe she does want to be viewed well by some people. All of that was out the window. She was just like, no. You've decided to see this side of me at all, and now I'm fully evil in front of you too. I'm not worried about protecting you from seeing this at all.
Well, he wanted to stay.
Yeah.
And she was like, okay. And that was her basically like, when she kills Rin.
Right.
That is her signaling to the other guy, this is me. Either you're with me or you're against me.
Yeah.
So him standing against her in this episode, that is a rejection of her.
Right.
And that's how she sees it.
That's true.
And that's the kind of person Osira is. That's why it really made me think about the previous episode. For all we did talking about, or for all we talked about how we wanted to see more of like why she wanted peace, I think we saw it. She wanted more power through peace. This was just another play for more power for her. And when that one question that was asked, and they said that's a lie about her being the puppet master, like, she's not willing to go to jail to preserve peace. Right. So she doesn't really want it. She just wants power.
Yeah.
That's the turn. There's no greater depth to Osira. She just wants power.
Yeah. Agreed. I do another point where this episode could have taken a different turn that I thought could have been interesting. Osira, they kill her and they're inside that ship. Mm-hmm. And now they're trying to escape this ship and Osira is dead. I felt like they could have maybe been like, hey, let's talk to scientist guy. Let's see who's in charge now. Like, you guys just offered us a treaty. We said we couldn't do it because of Osira. She's gone. How about that treaty? You know?
Yeah.
And instead, they just have a line at the end about how the chain is falling apart in Osiris's absence.
To me, that made a lot of sense because it wasn't really an organization so much as it was just Osira being in charge of it.
Hey, that's possible, except it seems like it's gone on for a long time.
Yeah.
Maybe we are done with the chain, but I feel like that'll be weird. I feel like this organization, Osira is the new leader, I believe. I believe it was like, you know, I believe she took it over from her father or something they said in one episode.
Yeah. You know, I don't know. I feel like it reminded me of, you know, anytime you watch like a mob movie, they did it on Gotham, for God's sake, where you take out the head of the mob and all of a sudden everyone breaks off into separate entities and starts like infighting. That's what it felt like. Like, I imagine we'll just see like a return of the Orion Pirates, like little renegade members of the Syndicate.
Yeah, I hope so. I really hope that we see next season, you know, the results of the power vacuum from Osira. We also don't really get a good picture of like the territory of the chain versus the territory of the Federation, which I guess that's like, you know, this has always been stuff that we've talked about with Star Trek.
Yeah, this is like Star Trek 101. Yeah. Like, Star Trek never gives us this info.
No, you're right. You're right. I remember all these maps on the wall of my bedroom as a child that was like, yeah, man, you know, this is what the Star Trek galaxy looks like. And I still imagine that whenever I think about, okay, the Romulans are kind of in this region of the Beta Quadrant and the Federation's over here. And that's how this all works. But like, the truth is, Star Trek very deliberately does not tell us this information in canon.
Yeah. Well, it's hard to say because, you know, it's not just 3-dimensional, space is 4th dimensional. So it's just,
I think it's 3-dimensional, but yeah.
I mean, it goes like, there are like
3-dimensional means like X, Y, and Z axis. Like,
yeah, I know,
4th dimension would be like time or whatever.
And with the temporal war is definitely that. Like, there are pockets, man. There are pocket universes. There are people as factions living in, you know, alternate realities that could pop up at any time. Like, with
sure, but that's really hard. All, then you're talking like multiverse, and you're talking about a changing universe. But the universe is a 3-dimensional thing that we could have some sort of tracking of, or like understand where the chain exactly resides. But they keep that stuff vague for a reason, because they can change it at any time and make things different.
That's my point, is that they can just do whatever the hell they want because they're science fiction.
Yeah. and you know, we're Star Trek fans. There are people like ourselves that will watch a thing and go, no, you said this, the Beta Quadrant was this thing. And but no, I was a little disappointed too. And I feel really bad that I have so many disappointments, but like, I really wanted more from, you're going to help me with his name. The communications officer we met in the first episode.
Oh, you remember? Sahil?
Sahil, thank you. I really wanted more from him, and maybe we'll get it next season.
Yeah.
But like, he shows up in the first episode, and I thought he was going to be like, I thought we were going to watch his story and how it like becomes a part of the Federation, and it was just like, here's his character, we establish it. It's a very interesting and like romantic character, and then they just don't do anything with it all season. You just kind of see him show up at the end. It's a nice moment at the end, but it's like, I wanted more, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, there was a part of me that was like, oh, well, at least we got to see him. And just for a second, I felt like it was like, oh, man. Yeah, we forgot about that guy. Let's throw him in at the end.
Yeah.
But then again, you know, I also kind of thought back and I was like, well, his story was pretty much told in that first episode.
Well, his character was established in the first episode, and he got commissioned. Like, but like, that's the thing, is like, I found him incredibly compelling and interesting as a character. I would have loved for him to be a crew member this season, who's like with them in their search for the. And I know that would have like That would have ruined the idea of him being this outpost guy on the outpost keeping his post. Like, I get why they couldn't do it. He couldn't be relieved or whatever. But I just wanted more of him. I wanted them maybe to be in contact with him, like see what he's doing, like give him a couple little missions to do, give him a few communications to relay, something that like would have given him like something to do. And I guess he now has been relieved and he is now part of the Federation, which is super cool and super fun. Oh, new uniforms. You called it.
Yeah.
They updated the uniforms.
I do wish I liked them more.
Yeah, I hear that.
I don't really like them.
Yeah. They're just fine.
Yeah.
I don't absolutely love them. And yeah, and you also called that you thought Burnham was going to be captain. I didn't think it would happen so soon. I know it's 4 seasons in, but something about the fact that it's 4 seasons in makes me feel like, is this the third? This is the third.
Yeah.
So we're going into the 4th season with her as captain, and I'm like, it somehow that feels weird. Like it feels like this was the story of the not captain, and now it's not going to be. Now it's going to be a very different show, I think.
Is that how you felt about Cisco? Because he became captain at the end of the 3rd season.
No, because he's still the commanding officer of that station. It doesn't, like, being the captain is being the lead of the show and being the commander of the ship that you're on is what I mean when I say captain. Like, Cisco was still, even though he was Commander Cisco, he was still like the head of the station. Sorry, I think I said that 3 times in 3 different ways. But I don't care about a title. I care about the fact that like the guy who's the main character of the show is sort of the which I think also DS9 was a lot more of an ensemble than this show has been.
Yeah, well, they had twice the amount of episodes to do it in.
Sure, absolutely.
And to be fair, those first to be fair and completely honest.
To be fair, sorry, I can't.
DS9 is my favorite series, but these 3 seasons of Discovery have been far and away better than the first 3 seasons of DS9.
That's probably true. There are things that I miss that this show does not do that I really like more about DS9, but most of that is those later seasons. I agree with you. I think the later seasons of DS9 are where it's at. It's what makes it my favorite series. Well, you want to get into some feedback?
Sure. Jay Smith over on Twitter says, couple comments. This is about last week's episode. Did the scientist guy say he gave birth to his children with an Orion? I thought he said that, which led me to think it may have been Osira. Second, in the episode when they went into the mycelial network, wasn't it said that it couldn't handle a lot of ships coming in and out, and that even Discovery needed to watch how much they traveled in it, or else risk destroying it like the universe? I don't know about that part. I don't, obviously scientist guy was not in a relationship with Osira.
Yeah, I don't think he was in a relationship with Osira. I think it was a different Orion, I guess. It also is weird then that he stayed on Discovery at the end if he has a family. He was there at the last battle, but was he there at the end? Oh, I may be wrong. I thought he was, but you're probably right. Maybe he's just it just seemed like we were getting like a little bit of a like, this guy is with us now sort of vibe. But maybe I'm making that up.
Yeah, he was very clearly on the bridge, and he was with them during the final big confrontation.
Yeah,
and it was like there was no like, oh, are you with us? Because Michael watched him get choked out for standing up against what's her face.
Yeah, exactly.
So
I hope we see more of him. I thought he was an interesting character.
Yeah, he was cool, but I don't think I'm either way, I'm good.
I also just think we need someone on the ship or like someone in the cast that is like, the 29th century or 30th century tech guy, like
I want that to be.
Adira is that as well.
Yeah, and I'm good with Cronenberg.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Being around, so
yeah.
Dave Miller on YouTube. Again, last episode. We watched Die Hard on Christmas Eve. Yes, Die Hard is a Christmas movie. So that film was fresh on my mind when we watched this episode. The part where Michael tied Stamets up and shot him out the airlock was such a John McClane thing to do and so badass I chuckled. Great episode. I agree, Dave.
Nice.
For this episode, Lil Trank on Twitter says, Disco finale feedback. I thought this finale was good. The good parts were the action. Saru goes back home and Burnham is captain. I liked the fighting on the turbolift and seeing how turbolifts travel within a ship. The episode had some good emotional beats that tied into the theme of hope. Sokal hearing his mother having hope that someone would save her son. The bridge crew putting their hope in Owo. Burnham putting her hope in herself. Why did Michael just leave Book in the turbolift to get mobbed by the regulators? Bad part was I feel this season set up so many more exciting things than dropped them by the wayside. Temporal war stuff, rebuilding the Federation, Detmer's mystery illness, figuring out a new faster than light travel technology, going more in depth to what the sphere data, aka Smart Ball, is. I fear next season will not address any of that except rebuilding the Federation. I was disappointed by Disco dropping Osira's desire for peace. I loved when I thought they were adding layers to her character, but nope, she's just a mustache-twirling slave master. All of these ideas for a deeper, thought-provoking story was dropped for a fist fight with Osira. All in all, I like the season, though. I hope they develop more of the bridge crew next season and maybe expand on some of the ideas they introduced this season. I think I've spoken to most of this already.
Yeah, he feels very similarly to how I feel, which is really good season, lots of really interesting ideas presented, some of them not fully explored, and then the last two episodes were mostly a fist fight, with the exception of the very emotional scene of, a fist fight with emotional stakes. Like I'm not saying there were no emotions here, and that right. There were stakes to the fight. There just wasn't clever. Okay, there was cleverness, but not cleverness that I could understand as a viewer. There was just sort of like, tactical, not decisions, and that's all. That's how I feel. But and some of these things like I did like that Navarre showed up. We didn't talk about that. That was another really cool thing. We didn't talk
about that. And I liked the thing that he brings up here to some degree is I liked Saru coming full circle and bringing someone else to leave their home world, quote unquote home world.
That was nice, yeah.
I liked all of that.
That was very much what we talked about. We talked about how Saru would probably leave this season because he has too much makeup on. And this is exactly
let me clarify though. Michelle Paradise does say he is a regular cast member. He is still on the show. He will be back for season 4.
Yeah, I just wonder. I mean, he's no longer in the captain's chair, and so is he demoted under Burnham, or is he going to be doing a different role in the Federation?
We don't know.
Yeah, I have a feeling he'll still be a regular actor, but I have a feeling he won't be every episode going into the next season. But I may be wrong.
She was very emphatic that we are not losing Doug Jones. He is here for the long haul.
Cool.
So
I'm glad. I like Saru a lot.
Yeah, I do too.
I could see him being the kind of character though that's like it's sort of like what the Admiral was in season 1, the female Admiral that I'm trying to remember.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, I could see him being sort of like that level of. And now he seems to have a son that he's going to have to be, sort of, I guess, helping this sort of father-son relationship with Sokal.
Mm-hmm. Which I don't mind that at all. I liked Sokal enough.
Yeah, same here.
I would be disappointed if they dropped his storyline completely because I am interested in where he goes. I think with this episode, I was less disappointed with what the burn was, and it felt more like real, like old timey Star Trek. Like it felt more like, oh, here is this thing that happened, and we just got like an extra episode or two to like flesh him out. I don't know. That was a nice little touch, and I liked that it wasn't like with more time to think about it. I liked that it wasn't some like big like, oh no, it was a paradox and they did the thing. Like they made it happen. I was glad that That wasn't what happened. That said, I still think between us and our listeners, we totally had a better reason for the burn in some ways. Like the melody and all that stuff, like the ship going down, the Titanic thing, like all of that stuff was good.
Did the melody never tie in?
I'm guessing that the melody had to have been that lullaby.
Okay.
And the way that the elders sang it, I just didn't recognize it.
Okay.
I'm guessing.
Weird they didn't hang a lantern on that.
Yeah.
Because I even, musician, I didn't recognize that melody when he sang it. I haven't heard it enough times to recognize it. I don't think the average viewer has either. So it's weird that they didn't hang a lantern on that, unless it's just like a herring for the future. I don't know.
Now that might be.
Yeah.
And that honestly, they didn't have to go into more temporal war stuff, because temporal war stuff is past, and it's just setting. That is why we exist in the way we do now in this timeline. And that was a character motivation for the Guardian of Forever.
Yeah, I agree.
So I think the way they set it up, if they leave it alone, if they never touch the temporal war stuff again, one, I'll be sad because I like temporal war shit and I like time travel, but it's kind of brilliant because of the temporal war. We could, as fans, headcanon anything we want. We could say that the original series always looked like Discovery's stuff. They just didn't have the technology to make it. We could say it looked exactly like the original series. We could say every continuity error ever in the history of Star Trek is due to this damn temporal war, and I am here for that. I am great with that.
Yes,
because in the annals of Trek, whether it be aesthetic or dots, from dots on a trill to wrong star dates, everything is now due to temporal war shit.
There you go. There's your way out. Doesn't appeal to me, but there's your headcanon out for anything ever. I
really like the messiness of that. I really do. Like, I like how messy that feels and sounds.
I do not. That does not appeal to me.
I do. I like it a lot. It makes me. That's sci-fi to me. Like, that's time travel to me. Like, just
very Doctor Who for sure.
Yeah,
and that's
absolutely
fine, but that's not what I like about a well-canoned contiguous universe. So just
that's why they had to outlaw it, man.
Doesn't scratch my brain in the right way, man. Doesn't do it.
That's why they had to outlaw it. It wasn't scratching your brain, so they were like, we can't do this shit no more. And I think, obviously, we'll be rebuilding Federation further in season 4.
Oh, another thing Lil Trank said there, that they were like looking for a new form of fast and light travel, which is true, and they were trying to get this to work, which they did at the end. They figured out that books people can do it, which is really cool. And I love the idea that they could have a bunch of spore drives all, helmed by people of that race. Like, that's kind of a neat little workaround. I like that a lot. But then at the end, and I realize it's I guess a timing issue, but like at the end of the story, they do they're talking about how they're going to get dilithium and spread it all over the place. Yeah. So they're not using spore drive technology yet, at least.
Right. And because the dilithium, there's no reason to not use it now. The only reason that they stopped was because it all blew up.
Yeah, exactly.
What are the chances that some other kid is going to be in a radiation thing and develop a weird psychic connection with dilithium in subspace?
Yeah, absolutely. Does that mean he still has a connection to dilithium, or is that only while he's close to the planet?
They said it 3 or 4 times that once they get him away from there, it shouldn't happen anymore.
That he shouldn't be able to do the burn. I understand that, but that's because it's projected through the dilithium planet. But if he still has a DNA connection to dilithium, does that make him dangerous just on a regular warp vessel? I wonder.
I don't know. I don't think so, but maybe.
It just seems like that would be.
It seems like it would be, but I don't know. They techno-babbled their way out of it, so I'm good.
Yeah.
I haven't had a problem with the last 53 years of Star Trek for doing that shit.
Okay. Any other feedback on your end? I got one here.
We absolutely do, but yeah, you can go ahead.
Yeah, this one came through Spreaker, which I don't think we've ever gotten a comment on Spreaker on any of our shows. So thank you to Donald May for that. Man. But it did come through. He said, "Love your show and appreciate the time you guys put into reviewing. As for this episode, I loved it. Die Hard in space with a dash of space C-SPAN. The only issue I have is Matt's willingness to so easily overlook the crimes of Osira, Space Hitler. Comparing her crimes to Richard Nixon instead of Earth's Hitler soft sails the heinous nature of what she did, all for a fall redemption scene. She did not want to relinquish power. In fact, she wanted to absolve herself of any wrongdoing while remaining a puppeteer behind the scenes. Nixon you can pardon because he didn't oversee the wholesale slaughter of innocents. If Hitler decided to come to you with this deal, there's no way you accept. That's why we have places like The Hague. You can't do these things and just walk away." That is fair. That is fair. I still think the conversation was valid. I'm not like all on board with team, let Osira be redeemed or whatever. I definitely don't think she can stay in power. But I do think there is a conversation to be had about the practical nature of that. Not that I think it's the right thing to do, or even that it should be the way they had, but it just would have been an interesting conversation to have the conversation of like, yeah, but you can't have somebody say like, but the practical nature of like saving all these lives and torture and, all this stuff going forward versus giving one person a pass now. Like there's a conversation to be had. I'm with you though, Donald, that like I think you're right, and I think that Vance did the right thing. I just would have liked to seen it like a little more fleshed out and conversated about.
Yeah. But thanks, man. Thanks for listening to the show and enjoying it. And,
yeah, for sure. Thanks, Donald.
I'm sorry Matt's endorsement of Hitler.
Yeah, I'm sorry that my endorsement of Hitler has soured you to the show.
By the way, I did want to jump back to Little Trank here, and he lists Detmer's mystery illness. That was pretty clearly a red herring, and very clearly explained as PTSD.
Oh yeah. They
did take care of that.
They did, but it definitely seemed like there might be a sci-fi reason for it, but it ended up just being her having a personal issue. Yeah. And
as for going more in depth to what the sphere data is, Michelle Paradise does say that they are going to continue dealing with that, and they completely recognize they love Calypso, the short trek, and they are absolutely fully intending to bring that full circle.
Cool.
So we will see more of the sphere data for sure.
Awesome.
Yeah, I didn't want him to cram all that into this season. I'm good. Let's see. Jason Smith writes to us, says, "Why can't Discovery ever stick the landing? Like half of it was good and the other half was just disappointing." The bad stuff was the stuff on the dilithium planet. It was all a mess and hokey to me. The stuff on Discovery was good. The dead Shul boyfriend recognized as a life form by the 100-year-old computer, but not any modern one. Well, have they put them in a in a hollow chamber or holodeck? Or it may have been a glitch of the radiation that it could recognize it. I don't know.
I get what Jason's saying there, though. That is kind of recognizing a life form doesn't have to be. You don't have to have a holographic projection, but like something being recognized there seems like the sensors on this 100-year-old ship do recognize gray, but yes, so far nothing's been recognized on Discovery. That's a pretty good point. Of course, I will say mostly has been on Discovery, which is an older ship, but
yes, that's true. he says the whole child is linked to dilithium thing in subspace, and when his mom died, he unintentionally kills millions and crippled a society was hokey and messy to him. I had no problem with it. It felt like something Star Trek would do.
Yeah, to me that felt pretty Star Trek. I get where he's coming from. It's funny, me and Jason have almost exactly opposite feelings about this. Like, I enjoyed most of the Dilithium Planet stuff. I didn't like it as it felt a little small, which in the end kind of was beautiful with the small boy screaming and causing the burn as his mother died. Like, but also I kind of knew that was coming for, an episode and a half when they were like, face the thing behind the door. I was like, oh, it's going to be his mother's death, like 100%, right? And like, yeah. So it's funny just that me and Jason have like the things he's like, I like all the stuff on the ship, and I'm like, I don't know, just don't like any of that stuff on the ship.
Yeah. Culber, Adira, and the Ghost basically felt like they were doing the equivalent of busy work because they had no point, but they wanted them in the show. I disagree with that totally. I loved it all. I thought it was fantastic. And
I feel like the main reason they put them there was for this moment with Gray, to show that Gray is more than like that's in the end, that's all their presence really did. Like, I mean, it's the basic away team thing. Yeah, Saru ended up being the sort of central character making the big decisions and connecting, but Culber got to be his sage self, telling Saru to connect to him on a personal level. He got to be that, and Adira got to connect, or got to make the sacrifice play of bringing them more medicine, which agreed is kind of busy work, but it's also character building for them.
And it also tied in with one of the themes of the season, which was connection, which was really nice for especially for the time that we're living in right now, where we're all sort of quarantined and held off from each other. And, I don't think that was not intentional. They realized it by the time they were editing this episode. But when they mapped out the season, Michelle Paradise was talking about this. I read it, where she was talking about how like that wasn't intentional, but when they realized what was going on and what they were going to be, when it was going to be airing exactly, they put that Roddenberry quote about connecting at the end of the episode.
That was nice.
How happy she was that it sort of tied in with everything more, because, I think originally it was more like, not being connected because of technology, and it kind of became something else. And I think really good Star Trek winds up doing that. And I liked it. I just liked it. I'm sorry. I thought all of that was great. And I thought it was, everything on the planet was great about like stepping outside of your own bubble and interacting, facing, the outside world, and facing people who might not agree with you, and facing, challenges, but as a result, growing. I liked all of it. I dug it.
I've got this playing in the background here, and it's something I meant to mention a couple episodes ago. One thing that kind of annoys me on this show right now.
What's that?
They've all got these personal transporters that like take them anywhere they want to be, but after a conversation, they always walk away first. Just because it's like a more traditional TV thing to do. There, like a couple episodes ago, and Saru had that conversation with Burnham about demoting her, and it was like that hard conversation, and then he did that Saru walk where he sways his arms behind himself, and then he walked about 4 feet and then teleported out. It's like, why did you walk away? Why did you have to have the dramatic walk away? And I was just watching it, and Sahil did the same thing in the last moments. They all have personal transporters, but they still walk into these little chambers to transport. I don't really know what the I don't know what the rules of the transporters are, but it sometimes it seems like they're doing just for blocking of the episode. They'll like do a little bit of a walk away, like
man. It's gotta be, man. I've noticed that, and it didn't bother me because it felt like one of those things where like you don't just hang up the phone. Like in TV shows, people always just hang up the phone without saying goodbye. But you never see that in real life. In real life, people are like, all right, I'll talk to you later. All right. Usually it's like 20 minutes of trying to get off the phone. But people on TV shows will just call somebody and be like, blah, 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 and then just hang up.
Yeah.
And so I think it's sort of the reverse of that, where it's like, if everyone was just queuing all over the place.
Yeah. I
just
agree.
Like,
it would
blink,
be
blink.
It would be awkward, but I also think it would be how people would be doing it mostly, like in reality.
Or maybe there would be like some sort of like structured polite society, like, no, don't just blink away from somebody. Just walk away.
I'm trying to have an emotional reaction to being demoted here. Just don't just like blink right in front of me. That's weird and it's off-putting.
Yeah. No, don't just. It seems like it would be rude to be like, I'm going to say my piece to you, and now blink.
Yeah. Sorry. I just was watching this and it in the background, it reminded me of that.
You might be right.
Not an issue.
I don't know.
Not an issue. It's not like they can't walk away first. It's just kind of funny. Especially the dramatic Saru one made me laugh.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that definitely would feel...
yeah, it'd feel disrespectful. You're demoted.
Yeah.
Our relationship has drastically changed.
Yeah, that feels like that would be a conversation later, like outside of ranking, just be like, dude, are we still friends? Like, you just said that shit and then you just blinked away. Like, it was like you were slamming a phone in my face.
You don't have the respect for me to dramatically walk away while swaying your arms like a Kelpian.
Well, they wouldn't say that because that would be really racist.
I don't know if it'd be racist. That's just how they sway. They do that sway the arm thing when they walk.
Yeah, but you don't want to like bring that up in a.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Like a Kelpian.
Yeah,
treat me that like a Kelpian. Yeah, you're right.
He's like, I am a Kelpian.
What do you mean? This feels like a personal attack. Okay. Yeah. Any other feedback before we head out?
Stuart Little writes to us in an email titled "Death by Legos." Says, "Hey, lots to unpack, so I'll try to bullet point as much as possible. What species is Adira made to look like? It was kind of familiar. At first, I thought it might have been Jayla's species from Star Trek Beyond, but it's definitely different to that. It's the Zahians from Runaway. It was what Poe was."
Oh yeah, Poe. That I knew I recognized it as well. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Stu says, speaking of, how come the hollow masking is kind of inconsistent with certain details? Saru gets turned human and is given hair, even though he's naturally bald, and humans can be too. But Gray gets turned into a Vulcan and is allowed to retain his non-Vulcan dye job. Speaking of which, when Lower Decks Season 2 comes, I hope Boimler's purple hair is explained. I like the theory that it's because he's been part alien all along, and it just never got mentioned. I don't know. Science fiction.
I never noticed that his hair was purple.
It is.
Huh. That's funny. It's weird. That is weird. And it's weird that I've never noticed it. I think I just assumed it was like I don't know. You know how certain, cartoons, they'll fill in the gaps of colors with colors that kind of look like the colors. And I don't think it ever dawned on me that it was purple, but it totally is.
It is.
I'm looking at it and a bunch of people have drawn like what he would look like as a real person or whatever and it's funny. Yeah. The purple hair is way more noticeable. Funny. Yeah. As a cartoon, I just never even thought about it. Maybe he's got a real Star-Lord situation where he's like he's going to find out he's, part ego or whatever.
Yeah, I feel like if this was classic Trek, there'd be an awkward turbolift scene where someone asks him if his hair is regulation, and then he would have to say yes.
Yeah,
and then McCoy would be like, he's half blah blah blah, Jim. They have purple hair. You racist piece of shit. Stu says, "Oh, better be promoted to a main cast status next season. Every time she's been given the opportunity to do something, she has kicked ass, and she can hold her breath for 10 minutes. She's like a Worf who isn't being constantly told to stand down." Plus, her backstory of coming from a Luddite community is really interesting. I dig all of it. Yes, bring her in.
Totally agree. Totally agree. I think Owo is super interesting. Backstory wise, great actress. Really well done on all the stuff they've given her to do. Just very little to do so far.
He says, does the Discovery seem bigger on the inside than the outside to you guys? The turbolift area was cavernous. All right, so this was a complaint that a lot of people had about the Enterprise last season. And I'll say this, I think the more I think about it, the more I feel like the ship always feels smaller on the inside because we see this huge ship, but all we ever really see are like corridors.
Right.
So I'm like, maybe there is something. Maybe it makes sense for the turbolifts to have a lot more to them. I don't know.
Some sort of cavernous nature. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see it. I haven't done the math. I don't know what the actual where the question is, where is that cavern? Because like they seem to travel through a lot of the ship. Like in the turbo lift, zooming by, and like that one is like zooming down. Like she jumps. Like I imagine she's on the top of the ship. Like like the ship is docked right in an atmosphere, and if she jumped off the top of the saucer section, it seems like it wouldn't take her but like a few seconds to hit the ground. You know what I mean? But then somehow she jumps and like chases that turbo lift that's going down, and then it continues to go down once she lands on it for a while. So like that does seem a little unbelievable if I'm being as critical as I want to be sometimes. That does seem maybe a little too cavernous, unless like gravity is working differently in there, which I guess you could headcanon that like it only appears to be going down. Because of artificial gravity, it's actually going sideways through the ship or something like that.
Well, the turbo lifts go down, up, down, and side to side and diagonal.
Oh, I'm just talking about the one specific one where she jumps off of one turbo lift and follows one down, and she is falling for a while as she catches up to that turbo lift. And she's falling, I guess, at normal like Earth gravity fall, unless that's not the case. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I have no idea.
It could be that once they're in there, gravity operates differently. And that may be how those turbolifts work. So there's some headcanon that can be done, but it does seem like there's a lot of space in there.
Yeah. Stu says, I kind of feel like if a nacelle was shut down mid-warp, the ship wouldn't just fall back into regular space. It would like explode, implode, or go off course enough to get really effed up, right? Traveling through hyperspace isn't like dusting crops, boy. Without precise calculations, we could fly right through a star or bounce too close to a supernova, and that'd end your trip real quick, wouldn't it? I will say this: we've seen it in canon before. We've seen it in, I think, almost every series. So I don't care.
Yeah, I hear what he's saying. I would say that I guess it's likely that there's some sort of safety protocols in place that the warp field wouldn't just collapse. Maybe, especially this distant future. There's probably some. They've already been upgraded. There's probably some, anti-terrorism measures that if just a nacelle gets, especially after the burn. If things happen with the warp drive, it doesn't just immediately destroy the ship. Right.
But I'll tell you right now, we've seen this in at least all of the 24th century shows.
Okay.
At some point, they're in warp. Someone else in warp behind them shoots them in the nacelle. There's an explosion. Yeah. They fall out of warp.
Right.
Back into regular space. It's a thing.
Cool.
It is a conceit of the series, of the universe itself. So I accept it and move on. Stu says the average looking one-armed middle-aged guy couldn't beat the younger, fully able-bodied, well-built guy in a fist fight. Inconceivable.
Wait, which one are we talking about here?
He's making fun of the fact that Zara or whatever his name was didn't beat Book. Because Book was fully able-bodied and well-built, and the middle-aged guy who only had one arm because his other arm had been frostbitten.
It's a fair point, but Book had been tortured for a while.
Yes, and as another listener pointed out above, He had also been fighting all the assholes.
Right.
From the thing. So
I think there was also one of the regulators in there as well.
Regulators. I couldn't remember their names.
Assholes is fine.
Yeah.
So I think for a second there was... I think
goose stepping assholes.
I think that there were different... I think he just had a lot of... and I think that the one-armed fellow got that to drop on him a little bit because he was a little mid-attack with other regulators.
Yeah. Stu says, I really felt bad for Michael when she almost got killed by Osira, as I imagine that must have felt like drowning in Legos.
That does sound rather painful.
Yep. It didn't look fun.
I just mean drowning in Legos. They're so sharp.
Yeah. He says, can't they adapt their own hologram technology to make Gray tangible away from that planet? Maybe. I was thinking programmable matter, but I'm not sure that there's any difference in this future.
Right. I definitely think we will get something. I mean, and they say so. They say that don't worry. Between Culver with his Culber, sorry, between Culber and his biological knowledge and Stamets and his technical knowledge, they're going to find a way to make him seen, which was very nice. It's a very nice sentiment.
Yeah. Stu also says, Saru, you effing quitter. You were our first main alien captain, and you just walked away so Burnham could slide into the chair. Boo. I thought this was more fitting of his journey.
Yeah, I think it definitely fits his journey, and it's fine.
He tried to give Burnham the captain's chair at the beginning of the season, and she said no.
Yeah, it's true. It is. While this is fitting of his journey, it's also fitting of his character to not really. He doesn't desire the captain's chair, it seems like.
Yeah. Stu says, seriously, though, as much as it disappoints me that the alien captain was such a short-term thing, I will reserve judgment on Burnham as captain until I see what style of command she has, because if she's like Picard, and captains mainly from the ship, and allows other crew, to go on away missions and have that narrative focus, that'd be a big improvement in my eyes. If she's like Kirk or Pike and leads those missions and has to have such an active role, then effectively, it would feel like little has changed about the overall format, because we would go from having a protagonist who gets her way 90% of the time to a protagonist who gets her way 99.9% of the time. Then again, I suspect that the year Michael spent with Book will probably have featured some incident, oh shit, another mystery box, she participated in that causes a big scandal with the Federation that might get her demoted again. Who knows?
I think it is likely that Burnham will be a Kirk. Like, just this, that's how they're setting her up. I mean, they even hung a lantern on it this episode with the whole, I don't believe in no-win scenarios.
Yeah, and I'm ready for that. Because I didn't get that feeling with Pike. I got the feeling that he's more of the thoughtful captain. He's more of the Picard from his season on Discovery. And I think that's probably what they'll play into more with Strange New Worlds. Maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, because he definitely went down a few times to do things.
I thought Cisco was a good combination of the two on DS9.
Yeah, I agree.
And I won't talk about Janeway, but she's
surprised we don't get more emails about our hate for Voyager. Or do you just edit those? Just kidding.
Oh no, we don't get any. Like I don't know.
I think maybe it's like we are that kind of Star Trek podcast that doesn't really like Voyager, and DS9's our favorite and all that stuff. And I feel like if you don't, if you really hate that, you're just finding another Star Trek podcast, probably.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with that. I'm not gonna suddenly love Voyager because of that. Now, look, I might go back and look at Voyager and go, I was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
This is the best thing ever. I doubt it, but
yeah,
it might happen. Now, I say I doubt it because I've tried and couldn't get through the first episode again.
But I've gone back fairly recently, and it has its moments, but it's overall not so great in my mind. Let's see. What else we got?
Stu says overall good season. Let down by the burn resolution a little bit. Sokal's story in of itself was good, but more in a one-off story kind of way, not as the linchpin of a season-long arc. I think rebuilding the Federation is more than interesting enough to carry multiple years of the show without having to put a big mystery to investigate into things. I would agree with that. I still think that's what they're going to do.
I would agree with that too. I honestly, you know what they could have done that would have made this all maybe structurally feel better is if they solved the burn halfway through the season. I don't know how that would have affected Saru's character and her becoming captain and all of that, but like if they could have solved the burn a while ago, and then maybe the knowledge, like maybe Osira attacks after they've already saved everyone on that planet, and they solve the burn, and then it's them trying to rebuild the Federation is part of it, but also them getting the knowledge that that they've already solved the burn back to Federation headquarters could have been a thing, you know?
Yeah. Man, I can't stop thinking about that who is the Federation president thing.
Right? The fact that we haven't seen that yet, maybe they're saving it. Maybe they want to cast someone cool, or
maybe they're waiting until Picard is over so that it can be revealed that it is Picard.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yes.
It's like Android Picard.
Android Robo Picard has lived into the distant future and is trying to hold on to the ideals of the Federation, even though he's like now this dark, soulless robot who's seen all his friends live and die.
Yeah, and we get a little bit of that. We get just a little bit of that in Discovery, and then the last season of Picard takes place in the 32nd century, and Picard is just so sad.
Yeah, he's like a vampire, man. He's like a vampire or a Time Lord, and like all of his friends have lived and died, and now he has no connection to the world, and that's why we haven't seen him. He's like a reclusive president of the Federation.
Yeah, man, and he doesn't want to live anymore. And then he's tired of life.
But his program won't let him die.
So at the very end, the last scene is Q shows up and takes him away.
It's like, you ready to go, old friend?
And he very weakly says, "What's the meaning of this, Q?"
He very weakly says, "Engage."
And then suddenly Q is in like a groom's suit, and he's like, "You mean it?"
Yep, that is. Oh, Q, just kill me. Stop it with your humor and just let me die. Why didn't they put him in a younger body? Why the F did Picard end that way? Like, what the hell? Like, I wanted to like it so much. I had every intention of loving that series, and I did. There's parts of it I really liked, but oh my lord, that's the dumbest shit. You have like a body there that can take, it can take Data's consciousness, it could take Picard's consciousness, and instead of making him like a functioning like immortal with superpowers, they like give him all of the you have the same ability as your normal 100-year-old body.
Yeah, but they knew that Picard wouldn't want it. That felt real. That felt fine to me. That part.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't at all. I disagree. I think that, yeah, sure, Picard might not want to live forever. Like that's understandable. But if like Picard could have had back his youth, you know, like had back his ability as like a, you know, a young man to be the, like we've seen him go through this before, like where he thought he could have like made his decisions better, and he wanted it. The only problem was there was like a monkey's paw aspect. Like if there was no monkey's paw, if he just gets to like have knees that work better, like why not? Why do you still have to make the poor man's knees hurt?
Because it's Picard. Picard would totally be against that shit. He would be like, no, my knees hurt because of time, and time reminds me that every moment is precious, and I have no desire to be back in the blah, blah, blah. And I have to sit here and sip my Earl Grey and ruminate upon the choices I have made, for that's what makes life worth living. Like, it's just this Picard up and down.
Yeah, I've seen Generations, but I still don't.
Yeah,
I still don't buy that. Like, he would want the same body if he could. Like, you know, I think he'd be having the same sort of problems that Kirk had as he was getting older. Like, you know, those sorts of, I want to be a younger man again. I miss my youth. And like, maybe we have that like arc for Picard a little bit. I don't know. Picard's just always been such a character who like always makes the right decision, you know? I don't know. Be nice to like tempt him with youth again.
Yeah, but it's also one of those things I don't think he would take. It would be like Riker being tempted with the powers of the Q. Picard doesn't want it.
I don't agree. I'm not saying he'd like take to be an 18-year-old again, but like I could totally. Well, for one thing, they have Patrick Stewart playing older than he is. Mm-hmm. And I could totally see him coming out of that machine and being like, we gave you 20 extra, we took you back 20, you know, like we like made you the age of the actor so that like he doesn't have to play infirm, you know what I mean?
No, I get it. I think that is what they did though. They told him he had like 20 extra years.
No, they said you will have that many years and you don't have to die now. They didn't give him back 20 years of the time he's already spent, if that makes sense. Which is what I was saying.
I didn't look at a comparison of their bodies.
No, I don't think they changed him at all. They said specifically they didn't change him at all. They just made sure that he wasn't going to die in that moment on that ship.
Yeah. That's fine. And we'll see what they do with season 2. I'm pretty happy with Picard overall.
Yeah. Oh, I'm pretty happy with Picard. You know, it sucks. Why can't these shows stick the landing? For me, and I understand for other people they are. For me, both of these shows, season 3 was amazing of Discovery. I loved so much of it, and then it completely whiffed the last couple episodes for me.
And for me, I feel like it was a near perfect season. I have no real issues. I enjoyed all of it.
That's cool, man. I really am glad. And then Picard for me was very similar. It was like so much good setup, so many interesting parts of the universe explored, and then the Data death and the Picard life, like both did not work for me at all.
Yeah, and it's difficult because I think with both of these shows, I feel like you and I and our listeners have better ideas for how they should go forward.
Right.
But that's not the story they wanted to tell.
Sure. And I'm not saying sometimes our ideas are fun, but in practical terms would be really hard to make work.
Yeah, like I wonder if we had, you know, carte blanche to do whatever we wanted, if we wouldn't just turn it into like John Logan's Star Trek Nemesis.
Right, we would probably really destroy the whole entire franchise. Like I'm not sitting here saying I'm not sitting here saying we're great TV writers. And there are practical reasons you have to do certain things, but there's just some things that I just don't understand, and it just feels so unmoored from what should happen on a show. Mm-hmm. We do need to write something someday so we can stop just being on the sidelines. We need to write something. Write a good podcast narrative or something. We've talked about it, but
yeah, maybe. Yeah.
We over on the MCU cast, we did our first ever. We did a stupid improv comedy type episode where one of us was Bane and one of us was Batman, and we made silliness for 20 minutes. It was fun.
Yeah, it was fun.
Oh, did you hear it? Oh, yeah, I sent it to you. I didn't know if you had a chance to hear it. I had a lot of fun with it. We just dropped it for the patrons because I was honestly too embarrassed to drop it in public. But it was a lot of fun. It's just fun to like try to make a thing, even if it's derivative in this case, not, my own universe I'm building or whatever.
Yeah, I always enjoyed it. I would like to get back to it someday.
Yeah, dude, you should.
Instead of just being the professional critic here.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. We're more, and by professional, I mean I do it, and people listen to us do it. I don't mean we make money, but like
we make some money. That's enough to be called professional.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I feel see. I don't know.
We get a few cents.
Yeah, exactly. Can you be professional if you're not making minimum wage? I don't know. I'm not sure about that. But anyway, I don't care. I'm not professional at any job I've ever had. I made more than minimum wage, so I'm right. My point is, we're not so much professional critics as we are professional fans. Like, I just enjoy this shit. Like, we are just a place to sit here and enjoy these shows. I think that's what I try to be. As much as I don't try
to be anything, I'm just here.
I feel like I've been extra critical of these last 2 episodes, and I'm sorry. Yeah. I know I'm probably really harsh in some people's buzz.
Yeah, I don't know. Me and my wife were just really like, because like I started getting people messaging me before I even got to see the show, and they were like, "Oh, this is bullshit," or "This is hokey," or "This is whatever." I'm just like, I haven't seen it yet. Thank you.
Yeah.
Please hold commentary until a later date. So yeah, like we were watching it. We were like, I don't know what the problem was. Like we were emotionally affected. And
that's great.
Not everything is how I would have done it. And I really work hard to try to ignore what I would have done.
Right.
And just understand what they are doing and why they made the decisions they did, and accept that I don't have the power. They have the power, because I think I get in my own way of enjoying things because it's just not what I would have done.
Right. I hear that.
I think that's the thing. And that's something being a host of DC on Screen has really, brought out, where I'm just like, dude, these entitled fans, yourself included, have got to stop.
Sure.
Like, just enjoy that you have a thing.
Sure. Well, any other feedback before we go? We're running close to an hour and a half here, so I need to get out of here. I got a lot of things to do. Got to go deal with family issues. As I mentioned at the top, my death in the family. So my father passed away, which didn't want to bring us too far down at the top. But my father passed away this week, and my mother's in the hospital with COVID, and it's really crazy. What's really crazy is that, like, as bad as this is, and as awful as it is, there's nothing to do. We did the funeral arrangements, which was weird with COVID because we just couldn't do anything. So we basically just buried my father, and then, like, my mom's in the hospital, but because of COVID, we can't even go. So we're basically just sitting, living our lives, doing our podcasts, and I'm doing my podcast. John's going to work, and I'm gonna play a show tonight, and it's just like, just kind of keeping moving while we wait on something we can do.
Yeah.
It feels very powerless because with COVID, normally if my mom's in the hospital for something serious, I'd be there, at least in town, and I have been in and out of town. I keep driving down and visiting, doing what I can with the rest of the family. But yeah. It's just not much you can do with COVID. It's just really a scary and sad time.
Yeah. I'm really sorry, man.
And I'm also really mad at my dad. You know what I mean? Like, he just didn't take COVID seriously. He wouldn't go to the doctor. Like, he died because he didn't go to the doctor. I think I mentioned this actually on MCU Cast last week because I was annoyed at him because he hadn't gone to the doctor. He hasn't gone to the doctor in 40 years. He just didn't go to the doctor his entire life. Like, since he was a kid, since he turned 18, basically, he just never went to the doctor again. And so it's like, so he just, that sort of pride and everything, it's just like, it's crazy, man. Just go to the doctor if you're sick. Like, take care of yourself. Everybody, take care of yourself. Be safe. Wear a mask and wash your hands and shit.
So, I'm really sorry, man.
It's okay. I'm still still trying to figure out how to feel. You know what I mean? It's all so wild.
Yeah.
But thanks for listening, everybody. I hope I didn't bring it down too much there at the end. Dead father and all. Gosh. It's just weird. It's just weird. It's weird to just keep living life, when this happens. And this, but my sister died earlier this year too, or last year as well. So it's like, it feels very strange for my family to go from this place you go to, this kind of the family homestead or whatever, and it's like a large group of people, 5 or 6 people there. And then a year later, it's like, there's no one there. It's really, really weird and strange.
It's weird times, man. I don't know. But I do want to tell you that, you and our, it is our family to some degree. You and your family are in my thoughts and Bethany's thoughts. And, my mom told me to tell you she's very sorry about what happened to your dad. And we're all praying and pulling for your family, man. So
thanks, man.
Well, we've known you guys forever. So and we love you guys. You guys
are family. And I'm happy to have you in my life, and glad you guys are safe, and I hope y'all can all stay safe and sane in this crazy time.
We're trying.
Yeah, me too, man. Well, all right. Well, that's all for Star Trek Universe Podcast. Thanks for joining us, and I guess I'm not sure if we'll do next week because of everything going on. I wanted to get this finale
Makes
in,
sense.
but we may take a week off, but we'll be back soon. We're gonna do some movies or something.
Well, we were gonna do those top 5 original series episodes.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Figure out. So get your original series episodes in.
Yeah,
and we'll tabulate it and figure out what we're looking at as far as those top 5
original series episodes, and we'll see what all you guys say and what we say, and try to come up with what the definitive top 5 that we'll want to cover, and see if there's see if there is a definitive such thing. All right, guys, we'll pon far.
Jolon true, live long and prosper, and cake is eternal.
Thank you for listening to the Star Trek Universe Podcast, a Stranded Panda production. If you'd like to hear more from David C. Robertson, check out the DC On Screen podcast or maladjusted.tv for his web videos. If you'd like to hear more from Matthew Carroll, check out the Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast or listen to his music. Just search for Matthew Carroll anywhere you get music.